Right, today we're making cider, and the process starts obviously with picking the apples on a lovely autumn day. Nice. Season of mist and mellow fruitfulness.
Stage 2, rinse. Feel free to comment at this point.
Yeah, right.
Both him and you at home.
Firstly, wash the apples. Right, here we are processing the apples. We're cutting them up and we're feeding them in through the garden chipper.
Speak up, they might not hear you.
And we're mashing up the apples in order to extract the juice by using this little press here.
This is very therapeutic, is it not?
Extremely. Yeah, cider making. It's a very labour intensive job. Actually burn more calories making the cider than you do consuming it.
Well, that's the way it should be, right?
No pain, no gain. And we take the apple that's been cut up, chipped up and mashed, and we load it into the press. Yeah, we mashed up and packed it all in there as much as we can get in there. And then we put on the top pieces of the press. And then we wind it up. Give it the big squeeze.
And then it really starts to go. Okay, we're just racking off now, using a sophisticated piece of siphoning equipment.
A plastic tube. Doesn't look very appetising at the moment. It will get better.
It gets better.
So we're going to add yeast to our newly extracted juice. And in the background you see the juice that we extracted a week ago is now fermenting away nicely. You can actually see the bubbles coming up through the airlocks.
That's carbon dioxide.
Yeah, that's it. And we try and keep the oxygen in the air away from the brewing mixture, because the oxygen can cause it to go bad.
You see that? It's bubbling up nicely. See, already that's started to fizz.
Well, that's just the yeast, and mixed in with the yeast you see there's actually two different powders here. There's yeast and some yeast food, nutrients for the yeast. But in the main the yeast just feeds on the sugar. The yeast eats the sugar that's in the apple juice and pees out alcohol as a byproduct.
Pees out. Okay. So how long before these do actually start firming up then?
Well, these ones that we're adding the yeast to now will start to vigorously ferment within a matter of hours, and so much so that they'll ferment so vigorously for the first couple of days that brown foam and scum will form on the top.
Just sort of...
Yeah, and it'll actually push itself out the top of the jar. So to start with we just put some loose water tissue in there just to...
Sort of like that like primary school experiment you did with like bicarbonate of soda and vinegar with the whole...
Yeah, but not quite that vigorous.
Oh, not quite that vigorous.
Yeah.
That in slow motion.
Yeah, it takes about 2 days before it's finished doing that first really mad vigorous stage. And at that point we can then put the airlocks in.
Okay.
Once it's stopped.
Now these do look...
And these, as you see, have been brewing for about a week and are bubbling away nicely, and they'll do this for several weeks until they've the yeast has consumed all the sugar that's in the juice.
As you can see, this is going to be a very special vintage. This is 10-10-10.
Right.
Also, I was going to say, even though these are made out of plastic, I can't help when I look at them think about, you know, a glass blower with hiccups. Okay, so we're just
Giving the yeast a stir around.
agitate the reaction.
Yeah, well, it's just to make sure that the yeast gets dissolved.
With a chopstick.
Thoroughly mixed up in the juice. We don't want it just sitting on the top. And we'll just loosely bung a wad of tissue in there, keep the wildlife out.
Okay. Although actually, you were saying if anything did get in there, the alcohol that's brewed would render it pretty inert.
Eventually,
anyway.
yeah. I mean, but you know, at this stage of the game, the juice is quite vulnerable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So when the yeast does froth up, it'll just push those out.
Yeah, that's the general idea. And then once that's, you can see there's some remains of the scumminess around the top here, where I've cleaned it out before I put the airlocks in. Yeah.
Yeah.
But this is the start of many weeks of brewing. But this mucky brown juice will eventually clear. You can already see some of the sediment forming in the very bottom of the jar, perhaps. Not, you know.
Ah, yes, I see that.
Yeah. So eventually, all the sediment will fall to the bottom, and the juice will become clear.